You wake to the smell of smoke and damp straw, the clatter of horseshoes on cobbles, and the low murmur of a town that has already begun its day. You are not in a warm, modern apartment. You are standing in a medieval market square. And the square is not empty. People stream toward a raised scaffold like they are arriving at a fair. This is not entertainment in the way you know it. This is justice. Loud, public, theatrical, and often designed to break the human body and the human spirit. In this age, law and spectacle are braided together. Punishment is meant to instruct the many through the suffering of the one. A pickpocket, a blasphemer, a woman accused of witchcraft, their misfortune is the town's lesson. The goal is less to rehabilitate and more to advertise consequence, to make fear vivid and to keep the social order visible to everyone who passes by. Consider the gallows first. Execution by hanging is not always the quick snap you see on screen. Often the rope and the drop are calibrated for a slow, public strangling. The condemned is led through the streets in a cart, hooded or barefaced, rope looped about their neck, while the crowd presses forward to glimpse the moment. Vendors hawk pies and ale, children strain on tips of toes, people trade gossip and bets. For some, the drop is deliberately short. The body convulses, lungs fight, feet kick, sometimes for minutes. The spectacle is not merely a moral lesson. It is a communal spectacle of dread. Friends sometimes rush forward not to mock, but to pull at the legs to end the agony sooner. Imagine the impossible mercy of your loved ones yanking your limbs to hasten death. Hanging is sometimes only the beginning. For crimes deemed especially odious, treason, murder, the worst betrayals, the law devotes a second punishment, gibbeting. The corpse is seared or embalmed, sealed in an iron cage, and suspended where travelers and villagers will pass. Flesh decays, birds pick, rain and sun neutralize the deceased into a rotting billboard, a permanent roadside warning that outlives the person it once was. The smell itself becomes part of the message. Before you even read the warning, your nose has read it. Rot, iron, the metallic tang of dried blood. Families beg for the return of bodies for burial. The state denies them. Your remains belong to law more than to kin. Burial is not a private act. It is another stage on which punishment is performed. Not every sentence ends with death. Public humiliation is a weapon the authorities wield with surgical precision. Step into the pillory, a wooden frame with holes for your head and hands. You are seated in the open nook of a marketplace for hours while the townsfolk pelt you with rotten fruit, mud, and whatever they have to hand. Stones sometimes strike home. Mockery becomes assault, humiliation becomes violence. The pillory does two things at once. It injures the body and disintegrates reputation. No prospective employer sees you without remembering the rotten tomato that once struck your cheek. The pillory turns punishment into a communal sport, and the sport, like all sports, has spectators who can grow bloodthirsty. There are more theatrical devices. The drunkard's cloak is crude, humiliating, and designed to be remembered. A heavy cask with holes cut for your limbs is strapped around your torso, and you are marched through town like an amusing barrel. People jeer, children squeal, and your foolishness becomes a brand you wear beyond the sentence. Refusal to plead in court produces one of the most terrible devices of coercion: peine forte, idur, pressing. The accused lies on the ground while heavy weights are placed upon chest and abdomen. Layer by layer, stone by stone, the weight crushes until ribs splinter, lungs collapse, and breath becomes a tiny, painful thing. Some prisoners choose death under weight rather than give a plea. Dying silently could leave property to their heirs. Imagine that calculus: to be crushed to death to protect one's children's future. For forgers, the punishment is permanent and visible. Branding. The blacksmith's iron is heated red and pressed into skin, a searing tattoo of shame on the hand or face. The smell of singed flesh fills the courtroom. The mark is a conversation piece on the skin, an accusation that travels wherever you go. Anyone who shakes your hand sees your crime. Humanity becomes legible, and the law writes its verdict into flesh. Whipping is a spectacle with a rhythm. Drum roll, knot, lash. The accused is tied to a post and lashed until skin splits, and the crowd hears this staccato pop of leather. Sometimes whipping is a prelude to transportation, a public scarring before exile. The convict is raw and bleeding, then shoved aboard a ship bound for a penal colony. The whipping serves both punishment and spectacle. Transportation has become a theatrical exit. Transportation is a punishment of displacement. Ships are cramped and foul, months at sea in shared holds, rats and disease spreading like rumor. To be sent away is to be excised from your community, stripped of rights and memory. The voyage is a second sentence. Survival uncertain, home lost. Death by distance is slow and administrative. Consider the Scold's bridle, an iron contraption fitted over the head with a flat piece of iron pressing down the tongue. It is as much a muzzle as a punishment. Women accused of nagging, gossiping, or bringing trouble to a household might be paraded with this device clamped on, the iron forcing a wet, humiliating silence. Their mouths are controlled. Their voices are literally dampened by cold metal. In the Navy, discipline takes gruesome shapes. Desertion or mutiny carries specific theatrical punishments. A sailor might be rowed from ship to ship and whipped in front of each crew, a ritual that humiliates the man and reminds thousands of others of the cost of disobedience. Each lash opens a new wound. Each ship's crew becomes an audience. The cart's tail is an image you cannot forget. A petty thief tied to the back of a cart and dragged through cobbled streets, whipped as the vehicle moves. Feet scuffed, skin torn, the thief becomes a rolling admonition. The whip sound and the cart's wheels are a public drumbeat of shame that follows you endlessly. Execution for treason often ratcheted brutality into institutionalized horror, drawing and quartering. You are hung until near death, disemboweled with organs displayed before you, then your limbs hacked apart. Your head might be boiled and then fixed atop a pike for passers-by to see. This isn't merely an execution. It is a forensic demonstration of state power, a disassembly of a human as civic instruction. Lesser economic crimes are punished in ways that combine humiliation and practicality. A baker who sells short-weight bread might be dragged through the streets on a sledge with the paltry loaf hung from his neck. It is a public accounting. The bread, the body, and the market integrate to show that cheating will be visible and costly. Perjury, the crime of murdering truth, draws a reputational punishment. You might stand in the pillory with a placard announcing "perjurer" pinned to your chest. The label is social death. Truth-telling is the currency of medieval society, and to lose that currency is to find yourself impoverished in a different sense. Burning at the stake often awaits those accused of infanticide or heresy. Bound to a post, bundled with faggots, the flames are lit and a crowd watches as a person's body is consumed. Sometimes executioners, if pity or custom permits, strangle the condemned before the flames take hold, but often the smoke and the screaming stretch the moment into a lived horror. For those sent away rather than killed, transportation, like exile, becomes a slow-motion death. Asia, America, far-off islands, the convict is shipped to be labor, to be property, under a new flag. Survival is not guaranteed. The punishment exacts years, maybe decades off a life. It removes you from place, story, and family. For those whose offense is speech, punishments that silence are particularly grotesque. Tongues have been pierced or branded for sedition. Imagine trying to form words and finding the wound in your mouth. The body itself becomes a record of silencing, a lisp, a scar, a lamed voice that carries the history of state revenge with every syllable. In a society where survival is often a mouth-to-mouth calculus, children are not spared. Theft to feed a family might earn a child a whipping or even a hanging if repeated. Records tell of small bodies strung up before a crowd, tiny hands bound, the hush of a marketplace broken by the sight of a child dying for bread. The lesson: parent, provide, or suffer the cost. The military's punishments are brutal and public to enforce obedience. Running the gauntlet forces a soldier to walk between two rows of comrades armed with sticks and lashes. Each pass can break body and spirit, keel-hauling at sea, being dragged under a ship's keel, tears flesh against